Hey guys, Willie Mayette, creator of JAZZEDGE. I want to welcome you to episode 23 of the Confident Improviser Podcast. Today we are talking about Bill Evans' chord voicings. This is part 2. Today we're going to cover the minor 7 flat 5 chords and also the diminished rootless chords. All right, so as a reminder, this podcast is a companion podcast to the Confident Improviser program. If you want to learn improvisation from the ground up, definitely check out the Confident Improviser. You can learn more back at JAZZEDGE or at theconfidentimproviser.com. All right, so Bill Evans' chord voicings. So today what we're going to do is we're going to focus on these two voicings, which is the minor 7 flat 5 and also the diminished 7th chord. Remember, Bill Evans' chord voicings, this is just like kind of a label that we give to these rootless voicings. We kind of attribute them to Bill Evans. Not to say that necessarily this is the way that Bill Evans is going to play all of his chord voicings, but anyway, this is great techniques to learn for your minor 7 flat 5 and your diminished. All right, so let's get started. Minor 7 flat 5, C minor 7 flat 5. The notes of the minor 7 flat 5 chord are C, E flat, G flat, and B flat. Now, before we move any further, you need to understand that you might hear this chord referred to as a half diminished chord, and you might see a circle with a line through it, okay? That is another way that some players like to refer to this chord. I learned it as a minor 7 flat 5, and I honestly think a minor 7 flat 5 is a better voicing. It's also a lot easier to see on the bandstand because at least you see that it is a minor. You're not seeing it as a diminished, and then you half it. So anyway, it's personal preference. You decide which one works for you. I refer to it as a minor 7 flat 5. All right, so now on the minor 7 flat 5 chord, really there are no tensions that you need to add to this chord voicing to make it a rootless chord voicing. All you do is just take the root out. So here I'm playing the 3rd on the bottom, so I have E flat, G flat, B flat, and C. Now a lot of times we know we would go up to the D there, right? But we're not going to add in that 9th because the 9th sometimes and sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes the natural 9 sounds good. Sometimes the flat 9 sounds better. And this is why we have our Locrian natural 9 scale for those times that we're going to use the natural 9th. So if you find that you're going to be utilizing the natural 9 in your chord voicing, and it sounds good, then that Locrian natural 9 scale is going to fit just perfectly, all right? We're not going to dive into that scale right now. We will talk about that. We talk about it on the site, but talk about that at a later date. All right, so anyway, minor 7 flat 5, all right? So you have E flat, G flat, B flat, and C. That's my A form. My B form is just simply put the 7th on the bottom note. You have B flat, C, E flat, and G flat. So B flat, C, E flat, and G flat. If I put the C in the left hand, that's the sound you're getting. C minor 7 flat 5. Okay. Now, let's move on to diminished. And I'm going to show you a hip little minor 7 flat 5 chord voicing in just a little bit. But let's do our diminished chord next. Okay, so C diminished. C, E flat, G flat, and A. Okay, that's my diminished chord. If we wanted to be technically correct, we could write this as double B flat. So write a B with a double flat next to it. Okay, but here I'm just writing it out as A. So with the diminished chord, what you do is you go one whole step above the top note, right, or the last note in the chord voicing. Okay, so here we have C, E flat, G flat, and A. So this top note is A. Go a whole step higher, and I have a B. And that's my diminished chord voicing with added tension. Now I can also do this in inversions. Remember, I could play the C diminished chord, C, E flat, G flat, A, right? Then I could go E flat, G flat, A, C, then G flat, A, C, E flat, and A, C, E flat, G flat, right? So remember, I can go through all these different inversions. Now, I could take that top note, right? Right, so you hear that top note? I have that top note, and I can take that top note and go up a whole step. So I have, there's a with C on the bottom there. There's with E flat in the bottom. There's with G flat on the bottom, and there's A on the bottom. So now the notes that I'm getting here is I'm getting C, E flat, G flat, and B, E flat, G flat, A, and D, G flat, A, C, and F, and A, C, E flat, and A, C, E flat, A flat, all right, or G sharp. Okay. So now the two forms that I'm thinking about here is just putting the third on the bass, or the third as the bottom note. That's your A form, or your B double flat or A, right, and put that one as the bottom note, and that's my B form. Now, the diminished chord, that little tension trick there, it works really great. I use it all the time in my playing, but you don't necessarily have to use it on every single diminished chord. Okay? Again, a lot of these voicings are relying on you utilizing your ears. If you play something and it just doesn't sound good with the melody or it doesn't sound good with the song, all right, well then you're going to want to try something different. Remember that jazz musicians do not play chord voicings the same way every single time. Jazz musicians will typically have a kind of like a stack or a library of different voicings, okay? So, in other words, for C major 7th, you might play E, G, B, and D for my rootless chord voicing, but I might also use chordals or clusters and adding tensions in there, doing all this different stuff, and it's still a C major 7th chord voicing. So, the idea is that the more voicings you learn, they get added to your chord library. Now, in order to be able to play these, you obviously need to work them out in other keys and through other progressions. Now, what I've done is I've created a simple progression here for you. C major 7th, E flat diminished, D minor 7 flat 5, G7 altered, C minor 7th. Okay, so you can take this progression, go ahead and play it. I'm going to play it for you in just a second, and then you can work through that in multiple keys, and that would be a great way of learning these voicings. The other great way of learning these voicings is by applying them to songs. And that's exactly what we're doing in Standards by the Dozen. So if you're not familiar with Standards by the Dozen, that's my premier course in which I'm going through and teaching a new standard every single month. And we're going through the lead sheet, rootless chords, improvisation, two-handed comping, bass lines, shells. So if you want to play solo piano or in a group setting, Standards by the Dozen is a great way of getting down those standards and expanding your repertoire. It's also a great way of getting these rootless chords really solidly locked in your hands and fingers. Okay, so check that out, Standards by the Dozen. All right, so here we have C major 7th, right? E flat diminished, D minor 7 flat 5, G7 altered, then back to C minor 7th. So C major 7th, C, so I have my C major 7th rootless chord voicing, E, G, B, D, E flat diminished, I have G flat, A, C, and F, D minor 7 flat 5, I have F, A flat, C, and D, G7 alt, right, which we've talked about many times before in the courses and also in the podcast. This alt voicing means that you are going to be altering the 9th and the 13th, okay? Often the 9th, sometimes the 13th. You could have flat 9 with a natural 13th, but anyway, so rather than writing out all of these tensions, we say that it's altered, and then you go ahead and play the altered voicing. Now here, the one that I have written here, yes, is the one with the flat 9. Okay, so F, A flat, B, and E flat, and then you go to C minor 7th, E flat, G, B flat, and D. Now remember, like I said, this is all recorded on video, and you can get this all back at the Confident Improviser in that course found at JAZZEDGE. All right, so if you want to watch the video or you want to be able to download the sheet music, you can get all of that. Now, I did want to tell you that there is a special way in which you can get the sheet music if you have not become a member or you're not a member of the site. Just go back to jazzpianochords.com chords.com. Put your name and email address in there. You'll be able to download the sheet music for this podcast episode and the previous podcast episode. So all of those Bill Evans voicings, absolutely free of charge, doesn't cost you anything. You don't put in anything other than your name and email, so no credit card information. And then you're also going to get a free account to JAZZEDGE, which is going to give you access to dozens of different lessons and chapters. You literally have hours and hours of content available there, absolutely free of charge. Again, does not cost anything, and you are never billed. So if you're looking to improve your piano skills and you do not have a free JAZZEDGE membership, I would definitely suggest that you check it out. Just go back to jazzpianochords.com, put in your name and email address right there, and then everything will get set up for you. All right, so now the other thing I wanted to show you is I have some chord notes down here. Minor 7 flat 5 chords do not need any added tension, so just good to remember that. And then also, diminished chords play a whole step above the last note, or you can also think of that as the top note of your voicing. So go a whole step above and that top note, and then that will sound great. Now, something to note on that, your C diminished, right? So my top note is based off of my C diminished block chord, right? If I do the C diminished and I take the A and I go up to B, don't get confused and think, oh, I go up another whole step from B and go up to C sharp. No, this is all based off of that original block chord and the inversions of that original block chord. The other thing too is you want to do it as the top note, because listen to what happens if you do it inside, right? There I'm doing it like I'm going from F sharp up to G sharp with the A, right? What if I do with the E flat up to the F? Yeah, it doesn't sound great. What if I go to C, right? Yeah, you might be able to get away with that. It's a kind of a cool tension. That's kind of neat. But really, it's that top note is what really, really sounds good. You can start to get some of these sounds. You've probably heard that kind of stuff before. All right, so anyway, the advanced voicing for the minor 7 flat 5 chord that I wanted to share with you, I'm just going to do this real quickly. It's a little bit more advanced, so if this is over your head, then just, you can just like pass by it for right now. So you start on D. I'm going to do a D minor 7 flat 5. I build a chordal starting on D, so I have D, G, and C, and then I also add in the flatted fifth. Right, so D, G, A flat, and C. That gives me my root, my 11th, my flatted fifth, and my 7th. Okay? Notice there's no third in this voicing. That's okay. I don't have to put every note in every voicing. Okay, otherwise that would be boring. Sometimes, like as jazz musicians, we might just even play like a little cluster of notes. Just a few notes from the voicing. But as long as you know that it's a D minor 7 flat 5, you know when you're going to improvise, you know to add in that F natural there. Now the other kind of neat thing to note about this is that this voicing is the same voicing as a B flat 7. So if I went down a major third and created a dominant 7th voicing there, that's the same as D minor 7 flat 5. So let's say that I wanted to do F minor 7 flat 5, right? So what I would do is I would go down to D flat 7, build a D flat 7 chord voicing, put F in the bass, and then I get my minor 7 flat 5 chord that way as well. So just kind of a neat other way of seeing it. Okay? All right, so anyway, like I said, if you want the free chord chart, you want to get a free account, just go back to jazzpianochords.com, fill in your name and email address there. And if you have any questions and you're a member of the site, remember JAZZEDGE members, every other Thursday get to be on live. I'm on live. I do my Confident Improviser Q&A session. You can ask me questions. You can play, get feedback on your playing. So it's a great way of really staying connected, staying accountable, and learning new stuff every single week and making sure that if you have questions, you can get them answered. All right, so anyway, that's it for me. Thanks, guys. Willie Mayette, creator of JAZZEDGE. I'll see you guys in the next episode.